Okay. Today we have Aves, and we'll talk about a lot of topics, I think, about public speaking, course creation, his future plans, about a little bit about his socials. But first of all, how are you, Aves?
I'm doing great. Nice to be here.
Yeah, me too. We have chatted a lot recently because you launched your last course. Maybe you'll talk about that. But I'm really happy to have you here, and congratulations on your trailer on the last course because it was really great. Yeah, so so please
I'm so
check
glad you
that
like it.
because yeah, because yeah, it was really great. Yeah, so so let's talk a little bit more about yourself. You can start from which point you prefer and how did you become a developer, for example. Yeah.
Awesome. So, growing up, I belong to a family of teachers. Like I also kind of, say that I have a genetic bug
Me
in me
too.
of teaching,
Me too.
right?
Me
Like
too. My
both
but
my parents and grandparents, they teach. So
me too.
even if I run away from it, I teach. I love to teach, right? And then I come from a family with a fair amount of spread between doctors and engineers. Like before me, there were, I think, 13 electrical engineers in my family. So when growing up, and I asked what kind of engineer should I become, everyone kind of pointed me to one program that was electrical engineering, mother of all fields, mother of computer science as well. So I ended up becoming an electrical engineer. And before jumping into that, I had already started to have some sort of significant interest in computer science without kind of knowing what computer science is. You see, one of my elder cousins, uh, he was studying Java, and it just mesmerized me that word back in, I think, 96 or 97, 1997. And I'm not that old. I was a kid back then, but like I started exploring what programming looked like. Kudos to Matt props to my parents. They brought in a computer in '97 in our house. I think I was like 5 or 6 years old back then, and I started hacking around on it. And then came 2002 football Euro Cup, and I was a big fan of football. I have actually played football on a state level, professional football, and so to watch that, I kind of got my first exposure to the internet. And since then, rest is the history. I've been writing content a lot. I've been creating code. I've been teaching people, giving talks, and though I kind of ended up with electrical engineering, I did my majors in computer science. And right after graduation, I kind of jumped on ship and completely forgot everything about electrical engineering and moved to computer science and engineer who loves emojis, right? So that's me.
And that's good. I think great. You had a scientific background, so we can say that you studied also maybe some different things, maybe, but yeah. So maybe your mindset is kind of scientific, let's say, because you studied engineering, electrical engineering. So yeah, that's
So
it. Yeah.
funny you should say that. So there are a couple of bits about me that you should know. Like, yes, I have a scientific background, and I kind of like the computer science, the field of IT, because I get to invent stuff, right? And they say that, well, a couple of hardest problems in computer science is naming things and cache and validation, right? But I love naming things. Like, you won't even believe the amount of domains that I have because I love buying awesome domains. I used to be a domain broker back in the day. So, like, I love naming things. And with computer science, with IT, with programming, I get to invent something and name it. And that thing performs the way I built it. So, like, that is the spark in me that, kind of makes me emotional about computer science. But I hate maths. So it's a bit of a weird thing to say for an engineer, especially electrical engineer, because math is like 60% of electrical engineering. I hated every bit of it. uh, and I love design. I've never been that good at design. I tried sketching or whatnot. I'm not good at it. But with a mix of all of these, with the mix of my spark towards inventing stuff, and then IT, computer science, being able to code as a full stack developer from scratch, and being able to design is something like I do now. Now I can't sketch your face, but I can, kind of design a good website.
I think they are really different skills also into design from the face and design aside. Yeah, there are different skills. I'm not that expert in that field, to be honest. I'm more like into the DevOps world. So but and so I'd like to talk a little bit about also, for example, one of your courses, because I've watched them. I've bought both of them, I think. Yeah, both of them. Um, what was your experience, for example? What's the difference between the creating the first one and the second one, or do you have created more?
So I think I have been teaching for quite some time now, right? I have a day job. I'm an engineer at the end of the day. I'm highly skilled as an engineer. I started as a designer, wanted to design things, found out that I'm not that good. And mostly designers don't get paid well. Teachers don't get paid well. So I kind of switched to more engineering kind of things that kind of had my foray in JavaScript front end. Like JavaScript uh, and PHP for backend. So I kind of ended up hosting my own sites, learning a little bit about DevOps for I think 5 or 6 years. And then I kind of become this full stack person where I have the insight on how I can start from scratch. Somehow I always write CSS from scratch. I hate kind of it might be the bit too much, but I don't like any frameworks. So I design from scratch, I code from scratch. So like it kind of has helped me understand the entire stack from zero to running, zero to production, or whatever you want to call it. So very early in my career, I started teaching because people had a lot of questions. Startup founders had a lot of questions. How do we do that? Shouldn't no code be the thing we do or whatnot? So I've been teaching for quite a while. And early on, teaching for me was like I had this bit of a foray in stand-up comedy, and then I switched to speaking English all the time. Like English is not my mother tongue. You must already have guessed it, but it's hard to crack a joke in English for me. uh,
Yeah.
and so mostly teaching for me was speaking at meetups and conferences. Right, I spoke at a TEDx conference. That was a huge thing for me back in the day. And then I did this course when I was VP of engineering at Warworks. I wanted to hire a big team of engineers, and I wanted people who kind of knew design websites the way I wanted them to do. So I announced this like advanced, development training, in-person training for 3 months that was supposed to be paid, but ultimately I ended up hiring half of those people who ended up, being my students as well as my employees, right? So from that experience, I kind of learned that I have a different story to tell, and I teach very differently than the way many people do. Like it's because probably I'm not a native English speaker, and many programmers nowadays, the diversity and inclusion IT is much better than many other fields. So many people learning code need that different perspective. They don't have those cultural eccentricities of someone native, someone who can just go to a conference or whatnot. I was sitting in Asia and whatnot, and then I thought, why not I record an online course? People have been asking me for that for quite some time now, and I've been doing online trainings or whatnot or in-person events. Those are completely different. I've done a couple of videos as well. I think about 50 videos on YouTube or whatnot. Creating a course was a different animal. I am a perfectionist. I hate to say that, but and I over-engineer stuff, especially stuff that is not my day job, right? So, so before creating a course, I decided I'm going to create my own course platform because, like, why not, right? I ended up with a huge,
You are a bit
stack.
you're a little bit crazy. Let's say this, but congratulations on that because it works. I've tested that. Yeah, it works pretty well.
Awesome.
Congratulations on that. Yeah.
Awesome. As you say that, I'm actually rewriting it. So, right. So,
But
so early on, I did it with PHP, Golang, a couple of services, small Kubernetes cluster that I didn't need, and then everything ended up with React on front end with JS, and like it's a mix of different languages. And while I was doing that, I am an open sourcer. I've spent I think 14 years contributing to the core software of WordPress. I used to be that, developer who used to run the JavaScript channel back in the day when it was not cool at all, like in 2006 and 2007. Then JavaScript became this huge thing. Come 2015, I have been contributing to what would become the new experience of writing with WordPress blogs called Gutenberg, right? I actually helped the community decide what framework WordPress should adopt and help Facebook and their legal team decide that they should relicense React and GraphQL as MIT license. So like these are career highlights for me. So while I was doing all of that, I have this knack of, taking things out of my own workflows and putting them on GitHub. Like I am a GitHub star right now. Like they kind of send me this
I
T-shirt
see
as
that.
well. Like right, so like I love to do open source.
Jealous. Oh, yeah.
So I love to do open source, and I figured out that, for example, I wanted to catch the ending of a video. And when you're watching one of my videos and it ends, there's an event that runs called vid end, right? Video ended, right? But that vid end variable is in JavaScript on the front end. On the back end, it is in PHP. For microservices, it is in both Python and Go language. I have completely over-engineered my platform. And then I found out that there's literally no theme on the market. Like every vid end variable for different language had different syntax highlighting color. Like it would boggle my mind. Like some place vid end is yellow, some place it's orange, some place it's red for some reason. It's the same thing. It's a variable in different languages with different. So I started building a theme called Shades of Purple. Like I love purple color. Everyone who has grown up with me, they know that I love purple color. So right,
Yeah.
like it's a huge thing about me that I'm a developer who loves purple. And then I just launched it like Shades of Purple, pun intended, theme, and it blew up. Like I think over 3 million developers are using it. And the entire idea is it's just purple, and it has like colors are across like 35 different languages are same. Like that is the catch that I built completely to dog food my own need. Like we are still talking about I was actually building the course platform, not the theme. It's something came out of it. I ended up spending, I think, about a year over engineering my course platform, and I completely gave up on it. And that was back in 2017. Then my wife kind of encouraged me that you should finally launch that course that you built that online course platform for. So in 2018, I launched a course on VS Code. People had started asking me, how you do this with your team, like what is that multi-cursor thing, or people have. I personally have switched from Sublime Text to VS Code after 10 years. So it was a huge ordeal that I kind of promised myself that I'm
Yeah.
never going to go through again, right?
Yeah, I think that nobody can say that you don't want to get your hands dirty. Yeah, so you really like to get into that, to understand that. Yeah, I don't know if there's electrical engineer background to get really into the things help you, but this is very fascinating. Yeah, that you like really to to go deep and understand things, create your own things. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that. I like that a lot.
like I don't know where it comes from. Maybe like you say, it's the engineering background, but I've been like this for quite since the day like I was born. Like I remember being able to open things up and kind of see like I never passed them back again. Like the story goes that a person would open things up and pass them back, and
Yeah.
I never did that. Right. So most of my open source work is like completely open ended. I forgot to document, and people got engaged because they started documenting it because they like the workflow. So like it's been weird that even my Node CLI course that I have just launched last month, it is complete different from it's completely different from VS Code course. Like I bought an excellent domain and I thought I'm going to teach people what is Jamstack. And then I started to kind of lose picture of what is Jamstack, right? While I was recording it, right? Like Jamstack is not a stack; it's an idea. And then I
Yeah.
helped a client migrate a huge website from Gatsby to Next.js. Next.js is sort of Jamstack, but I generally call it beyond Jamstack. You can build Jamstack with it, but it generally helps you go beyond Jamstack as well. Like it's not just that static thing; it's hybrid and universal, right? So I kind of got confused. I tweeted this poll that which course do you want me to record next, right? And I intentionally put Jamstack on top so people would vote it. more. Like us people, like if you have more than 10,000 Twitter followers, I believe you already know that first option gets most voted on a Twitter poll
Unle-
if it's
Unless
good
there is
enough.
unless there is JavaScript as option, of course.
Exactly. So I thought that, and I wrote Jamstack. I think I wrote another thing. I don't know. And then there was like fourth option. I thought, what should I write here? I just wrote Node.js automation. Like it was just that filler option that I wrote, and it got most votes. Like I didn't know what to do. Like now what. I don't want to sound like a jerk. Like, yes, you folks wanted me to teach you Node.js automation, but I'm just going to go ahead and teach Jamstack, right? So I didn't want to be that, jerk of a person. So since like I think I remember like 70% people voted Node.js automation. That's probably because my audience is that way. I love automation. I've built hundreds of CLI stuff like to reboot my server, to reboot my local Wi-Fi, to if I forget the name, the password of a Wi-Fi that kind of stored in my system, I wrote a CLI for that. Like I'm that kind of person who writes CLIs for everything. I think over the years, people had picked up on that, and they actually wanted me to teach how I do automation. So that kind of changed everything from me. Like I wanted to do a small course, then a little bit of feedback, and people wanted to learn everything. And then I googled it and found out that there's like literally no good resource. I'm not saying good, but not there's no extensive resource for learning how to build automation. Like there are tutorials out there. There's a
Mm.
course I think about an hour long. Automation is a big industry. Like I remember that I used to be a front end developer, and my first foray in backend was building a CLI. From there, I started building backend APIs and then DevOps. So I kind of got interested in this idea of if you want to become a full stack developer, maybe the first thing you should do is, which is like most powerful, build a CLI, right? You should get an introduction to Node.js by building a CLI and automating something out of it. So I just went with it. It ended up with a huge. I ended up with a huge course. I recorded 30 hours of recording. I deleted, a lot of my content. It's still about 10 hours. Still about 100 videos. I don't like it, but like I don't like that it's too long. But there are things in there, like for example, 20 projects of CLIs that I created,
Mm.
and then created a CLI that can create CLIs. And people had already pre-ordered my course, so they said, if you are doing this, we would also want to learn how you are doing that production thing. And to myself, I thought I'm never going to ask for feedback again. but I did end
Mm.
up, recording. So
Mm.
it's a completely different thing from what I had in mind. It's also completely different from what I'm going to do next. So I'm not
Yeah,
going to do such extensive courses next.
yeah. And what you say is really interesting because I think that a lot of people, maybe also me, some months ago, they think that by saying, giving feedbacks by put a comment on some videos, it doesn't have that much impact. But I think in some cases it actually has a great impact instead. So as you said, maybe that poll people they answer and then they change the what you was actually going to do. Okay, I can hear you.
No, no, go
Okay,
on.
no, okay. No, I mean that the feedbacks are really important to give also to the content creators as they answer to your poll and you change your idea. Yeah.
So I remember setting up IT governance for a team of 160 engineers that I used to lead back in the day. And IT governance is this way where feedback matters a lot on what you are going to build, how the team is going to perform, especially under pressure and with deadlines. I've learned things around feedback. I think one of the important things that I've learned about feedback is not all feedback is good. Like I personally don't go out of the way to acquire feedback. I think that changes things. Like, if you're trying to experiment something, you add extra chemical in it, it's going to be changed, right? Let it be a little bit more organic. Let the feedback from people who actually want to give that feedback come to you, right? And then you need to be able to, distinguish what kind of feedback is just some person trying to, dog food their own needs. That's probably not what you should focus on. I think there's an excellent talk from VP of product Microsoft. I completely forgot her name. Uh, she actually talked about this for an hour about that not all feedback is good feedback and how to realize what is good. Like it's a tricky world out there. So like people generally throw around words like take feedback or whatnot. Like I was actually just today talking to Florin on Twitter. Florin Paul. He's writing his book and he
Mm.
was considering opening it up to his pre-orders so that they could go and comment. Like I actually told him not to do that. Like for the first time in my life, I did pre-orders. I was really scared that I'm going to do that. Everyone kind of says never do that. With Node.CLI course, I just put a website up and said I'm going to give you like what I think I gave them course for $60 instead of 250. So like I didn't even know what the course was going to be. So I just put a price up there. And many people, many course authors, they say that you should not do that. You will feel compelled. You will end up, over engineering things. Like I'm an over engineer, so I did end up doing that. But in my personal experience, that turned out to be really well for me. So had I just gone with the feedback I had, I would not have. I would have left a major amount of money on the table. I was able to do 6 figures in 6 days of the launch of this course because I had pre-orders, and that has never happened to me before with any course or with any product that I had ever launched.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. See, he also asked to me. I get to my impression that it could work for him, but I've seen many people, maybe with more experience than me, also David Vassallo, who told him to not do that. So we'll see. I give my opinion based on who Florin Pop he is actually. So I don't know. I trust in him. I think it could work for him. Maybe it's a bit risky, but we'll see. We'll see.
So yeah, it goes like this. Like for example, if you do something, if you write a book or course on DevOps, I want to learn from you, want your perspective. Yes, on the basis of that feedback after launching that you get, you can improve that course version. But I actually want raw thinking you have, Francesco's raw thinking. I actually want to learn that. Learning Kubernetes or learning DevOps is not that hard, but learning what you think of it, that is what I want to learn. If you start very early on, you might end up changing your own opinion because of the feedback that you get. So I don't want that. Like you may personally want that, but initially I actually want to learn from a creator, and that is like it's very hard to distinguish between that. I've seen many people, especially folks who do a lot of YouTube videos, they depend a lot on feedback. But with courses and books, I personally believe it works really different. Course is a very personal thing that you do. Like my Node.CLI course is my workflow. I'm not teaching Node.js. I'm not teaching how you can create Node.CLI. I'm teaching how I create Node.CLI. It's learn almost everything I know about creating Node.CLI. It's not learn everything about creating. Like it's a very different picture. Mostly on YouTube, you will see factual based videos. What is Node.js? How to build Node.js CLIs? It's about Node CLI. It's not about the person. It's not about how they produce CLIs in production, right? So like there's a bit of a difference here. And based on feedback, I've seen that people generally end up siding with facts and how to's instead of siding with how they did. Like if I want to learn cooking from a chef, I want to be there in the kitchen right beside him, looking over his shoulder, and seeing what he's doing and how he's doing. I don't actually just want to learn how he's cooking a dish,
Yeah, yeah.
if
So
that
this,
makes any sense.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is your point of view. I think you have a very good point on that. Yeah, we'll see in the future. Let's see what also he has to say about that. Maybe in the future. Yeah. So thank you very much. Um. So what about your YouTube channel? Because I don't. Maybe I've watched some videos. I don't know if because you are creating courses while you are also on YouTube. So you do a lot of stuff. But I'm interested into YouTube because I'm just started. I think some months ago. So I'd like to know a little bit more about that. What do you plan to put there? If you want to use that, what about that?
Yeah, sure. So like if I were to define myself, I'm actually a blogger, not a YouTuber. And I always kind of try to learn who I am as a person, as an engineer, as as anyone in that particular position, right? So I often tell people in my students that set expectations, and when you don't meet them, learn more about setting expectations with yourself. Actually means learn more about yourself. Like if you wanted to do something in 5 days and you weren't able to do it, maybe you over expect from your own self, right? From yourself, you don't know who you are as an engineer or as a content creator. So a lot of things like back in the day, it was easy to learn things. Nowadays, there are so many options, so many choices that many beginners I see they are in a state of decision paralysis. Like, should I learn Kubernetes? Should I go with Node? Uh, what is this next year's thing, right? Like instead of focusing on what everyone else is doing, think about what you can do best. And I'm not a native English speaker. It takes a huge amount of time for me to create a single video. Like for example, I created a video in my VS Code course. It's actually a 9-minute video where I'm teaching 14 different workflows on multi-cursors and all those cool stuff without
Cool.
touching your mouse or
Cool.
that. And that 9 minute video took me 4 hours, 3 takes. And even that like I first one was about 1.5 hours. I didn't like it. Then I kept improving it until it was good enough. There was so many visual cues. Like I wrote everything down and I opened 14 different tabs in VS Code. Each tab had all the shortcuts written. So when I'm speaking, people would know I hate slides. So it was just, a markdown. People would not only see what is written, but they would also see me, using those shortcuts, creating those multi-cuts. So getting down to that 9-minute video was really tough for me. And I struggle with this idea of YouTube. Like if I just put it out there, YouTube algorithm, I believe, prefers, like 6 hours of content over 9 minutes, right? And for me, I believe that maybe live streams might be good for that long, but for learning perspective, if you want to actually sit down and learn something, it needs to be very much concise. Need to be less about facts. It needs to be about you, your person. So I struggle with this idea. So instead of betting on YouTube, what I have done personally is I write a lot, or used to write a lot. I've been writing content for about 14 years, uh, or maybe 17 years. I think if we talk about my first blog, and I have a huge amount of traffic there. I think my personal blog, gets about 4 million views every month. I have about 100,000, 116,000 developers signed up to my newsletter. Like that is my foray. So and I also know that I'm not a native speaker. It will take me about like what a native speaker's for a native speaker, what it would for them it would be half an hour of a video content. It would take me 2 hours. Like I don't want to bet on that. And it's what would be the return of investment there, right? Like it's free content, and then with free content I want to create more free content. Like I'm actually next week I'm hoping to create launch a free course on Node.js release cycle. Like many people don't understand that when they should update Node.js, how they should update it, what is a release cycle. I created a video about 1 hour of content around that, but I may put that on YouTube, but it would still be very concise. So I struggle with this idea of creating a lot of content, and I struggle with this like I'm going to teach web development on YouTube. What would my course for web development would look like? Would those two things would be different? Uh, I am sought through with different companies and recruiters. They would definitely go look at my free content, which probably might not be as good as my courses. Like it's a bit of a struggle. So like I believe you should definitely learn more about yourself and bet on things you're good at. I'm not good at consistency. I know that. I'm not consistent. I've never consistently sent newsletters. Never. Right? I tried many times and I had this grudge with myself that, man, I should start a newsletter that gets sent every week or a podcast or something. I'm not consistent. I'm not going to do that. Right? And I learned about that when I got into Harvard Business School. I dropped out because my father told me that you're not consistent. Early on, I was like pissed off, but I learned about myself. Like, really, I have never done something that required consistency that well. So I stopped. I think a couple of years ago, I stopped betting on anything that required consistency, and I believe I've done pretty well. I'm betting on things that makes me happy, and that where I am able to shine, where I'm able to produce content like nobody else, right? So do YouTube if you want to do YouTube, right? Don't do it because everyone else is doing it. Like I know of a person, I'm not going to name him because we were chatting about it, and this kind of stuff. Like he has a lot of accent. He's not a native speaker. He has an excellent Twitter account. He has an excellent blog, and now he's jumping into YouTube. I generally reach out to him like, how are you trying to do that? You're super successful with your blog, with your tweets. You might not see that kind of success with YouTube. Like,
Yeah.
don't run after it just
I
because you want to, right?
Yeah, one thing that I think is that there are different channels, there are different ways of communications. Maybe you need to find which one is the best for you, for example, and maybe try. But yeah, not everyone can be successful on each platform. Otherwise, there will be only one platform, maybe. So yeah,
Exactly. So you want to optimize for what makes you happy, what delivers most value to your users, and what takes extremely small amount of your time, right? Like this is what I do. I can quickly write a content and it will stay there. It will be evergreen. Over a year, it will receive about 100,000 to 1 million views, right? I can't say that about my videos on YouTube. Like I've not tried that much, but I think I may have about 200,000 views in like last 10 years. So on things related to electrical engineering. So
I yeah, and I think that for what you say, that one would think of you is that you know your limits. So you know, by saying I'm not consistent, for example, you are actually talking about your problems. So I think this is what makes you good at doing things, because if sometimes we say, but I can be that consistent, or I should do that. Instead, I think that you know your limits. You know if you want to pass them or just don't do that. I think this is a skill that few people have, because sometimes our perception of ourselves is a bit strange. So I think in your case, this can help you quite a lot. I don't know if you agree
no, no.
on this or not, because
I
I mean,
believe like 2020 was weird, right?
sure.
And everyone, like for example, I don't watch news, so I'm weird that way. I think about 8 years ago, I once stood up that I'm giving up on watching news, and since then, it never bit me. Right? I was doing fine till January this year. My wife tells me there's this COVID-19 thing happening, and I was like, it's all on the news, right? I'm not watching news. In February, everything throughout the world got locked down. I had like 23 conferences planned throughout this year. This year was going to be the year that I traveled most. I ended up not traveling at all. so 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 everyone is different, right? And with COVID-19, so many people are thinking of jumping into learning code. So but you still not everyone is built to write code. You have a lot of opinions about things. You may be someone who used to work on McDonald's, right? Or someone with really different perspective. Like I was just looking at this debate happening on Twitter where people were debating if coding is hard or managing a 8-hour shift at McDonald's is hard. Everyone has their own perspective. What I want people to know is learn about yourself. You are someone, and try to accomplish that with code if you want to code, right? So don't try to become a Python developer just because they get paid more, or just because it's cool to say that you're a Python developer. Like for example, I have this friend who only survives by writing creating or building email templates. It's a very weird niche, and he makes I think about 250 $260,000 a year just by doing that, right? So he's a consultant, but the kind of email templates he produces, they are not sent to spam. He learns his, he has a way with words, and he has a way with handling that bullshit markup for emails. Like for example, for Outlook, you have to capital the M of margin, otherwise Outlook would ignore margin in your email template. Like email templates are pretty weird. Like so you
Yeah.
learn yourself and bet on that, right? Don't bet on what you are being taught. in on Twitter, on YouTube, on a boot camp in university. Like, yes, bet on things that you're learning from people senior than you in the field, but also try and learn more about who you are as a person, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. This kind of thing that you should focus on yourself, which is the best for you. I don't think this is. I think this can be applied for to everything, but yeah, for coding because it's something. It's a kind of a mental activity, so it's hard to do something that you don't want to do. Maybe for physical
So,
activities, maybe it's easier, maybe, but
so,
yeah, yeah,
so I'm cutting you off here because I
yeah,
just thought of something that fit right in here.
yeah.
Like you early on when I was a little bit younger, right? So I used to believe a lot in motivation. Like I'm passionate enough, I'm motivated enough, I should be able to do business well, right? Or I should be able to do this well or that well, right? And lately I've learned that motivation is a fleeting emotion. It just flees, right? One day you are motivated, next day you are not. It just does not work. And there are a lot of huge amount of books or courses on self-help or whatnot. But I've seen this new thing, a new idea. I was talking about that uh, motivation is this fleeting emotion. One day you are motivated, next time, next day you're not motivated at all, right? So I've recently started learning this new thing. Like I used to be a football player. I used to play pro level, state level football, and I was a lean mean machine, right? And then I started writing code. So I put on like 50 kgs in a couple of years. I started eating a lot of junk food, and for whatever efforts I put in, I wasn't able to go back to my former shape. I don't like to run. I don't like to do any kind of exercise. Dieting is so hard. So like I'm motivated to do that, but I just can't do it. So I've been trying on myself, learning things about myself. This new concept of accountability. You make yourself accountable in one way or another. And for me, accountability comes from many different things. But for losing weight, I've lost like 15 kgs, about 30 pounds in last 2 months.
Well,
And
congratulations on that.
awesome. So I've been running like 100 kilometers per month, and the accountability is this weird concept. So I've actually sent a chunk of my money to my brother. And if I don't, show him a picture of me running every day, he's supposed to take that about 25% of what I earn per month. That's his. So like, it's a weird kind of
Nice.
accountability. And
Yeah,
it takes me out of the bed. It takes me, I'm sort of, I feel like I'm accountable. It's not just about money. I feel like I have that fear of failures. I'm sort of accountable in a way. And now I'm dieting and now I'm running and like I'm enjoying it. And he's not
yeah,
making money. I'm enjoying more.
yeah.
So,
But do you know about the running for charity event? For example, the one I did in August. Don't know if you watched that. If you know
no,
about that,
I,
Florin introduced me to that. That you need to run 100 kilometers in a month, and then you put a link and people can donate to you. I raised almost
I have no idea.
500 euros. So the next time you want to run 100 kilometers in a month, we can do this together. We can also raise some donations. So yeah, I'll
So
introduce you
I'm
to that if you want to do that in
awesome,
the future.
awesome.
Yeah,
That'd be awesome. I run like 5 kilometers a day, 5 days a week. So it's become second nature to me because I don't want to lose money and I like the face my brother has when he's not making any money. Like it feels like I made that money, but he's returning it back to me every month and I'm enjoying it. So
yeah. It's a
if
game.
that
It's
makes
a
any sense.
game. It's a mental game. Yeah,
Exactly.
I understand that. Yeah. Sometimes we need. I don't know how to call that. If this is motivation or yeah, what to say. So this is kind of there are things that triggers us a little bit. That trigger us. Yeah. So yeah, in this case, it
Exactly.
works for you.
Like like I used to read a lot of, self-help and book. Like they want you to be a particular way. You should have self-discipline. I don't have. You should be consistent. I'm not consistent. Like, but I am accountable. Like I get up daily, I work, and I've in my mind I've defined running as not an exercise, it's work, right? I'm accountable for that. If I run, I get paid money, right? Even if it is my money, because if I don't run, I lose that money. Similar to if I don't work for my clients, I lose money, right? So like I've changed the mental value it has. It's not a fun activity for me. If I'm having fun, like I'm having fun writing code and still getting paid, that's another thing though.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you have a pretty good knowledge of yourself, which is one of the best things that you can have. So to understand yourself, it's not something easy to do because you need to think about, a lot about who you really are. Do you agree on this? I don't know if you
I
because for
think
some, yeah,
I think at a particular stage, you become a senior developer, and then you don't really know how to grow up from there, right? Like you look up to different people. Everyone has different aspirations. You can't just read a tutorial, watch a video, and know what is next for you or your career, right? So that was when I started learning about myself, like who I am is probably what I want to explore, and what I'm good at is what I want to bet on, right? I love DevOps, but I know I'm not that good at it, so I'm not going to bet on doing Kubernetes work for someone else. Like I have done Kubernetes work for myself, not going to try it for someone else because I can tolerate the mess I create. Maybe no one else would. So I'm just sticking with who I am. I'm a web purist. I love the web platform. It makes things fun, right? It's open, and I've been doing it for more than a decade. So I grow by learning about myself, and then looking at what other people are doing, and then finding out what I can do best in improving that part only, instead of just looking at what is the next JavaScript framework out there nowadays. If
yeah,
that makes sense.
or the next JavaScript runtime engine. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, thank you. Let's yeah, we can close this one with talking about the socials. For example, we can talk about Twitter if you want. Please tell me why you are verified and I'm not. And yeah, let's talk about these 2 minutes, and yes, you can say your experience with the socials for Twitter or for whatever you want.
Awesome. So I love the Twitter platform. I think over the years, I used to love Facebook. I used to have a huge amount of audience there. Like everything I put out there would receive about 1,000 likes or whatnot. And then someday Facebook decided that they're going to reduce your audience, right? That was, I think, about 6 years or 7 years ago. In a lot of my traffic, a lot of my audience kind of just vanished out in thin air. And then a couple of years later, Facebook decided that your post will be shown to people who are closer to you physically in your vicinity. So like I completely moved off of Facebook to my blogs and Twitter. And so far, the biggest source of traffic that I get after Google is through my mailing list or Twitter. And Twitter is where I actually go to hang out. I have not found any other social media platform. I'm not saying Twitter is all good. It's a different animal, but if you put enough time in it, and if you put something there, like people are on Twitter because they want to be in Twitter, not click on your link and move off of Twitter. If you do that, you can do a lot. And about verified, I think Twitter recognizes different personas. Like if you're an actor or actress, you can get verified very easily. So if you are a journalist, you stand a better chance of getting verified. Since I have bylines in many major magazines like Smashing Magazine, New York Times, and HBR and stuff like that, uh, due to my tech journalist background, I kind of got. I think it was a little bit easier for me, but like anyone, I just applied. I was actually going through an identity crisis back then, and there was this dude from who knows where. He was trying to impersonate me, and that ended with a very good, verified badge on
Yeah,
Twitter.
yeah, yeah,
So it's fun.
yeah. It's good. Yeah, in this case, in this period, is worth even more, I think, in the past. So yeah, it's something. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I've seen, like, I think more than 30% of my sales, product sales, my course sales are now accountable to Twitter. So it's a huge deal for me.
Yeah, and I also think that a lot of views that I get here, they not all, but most of them they come from Twitter. So yeah, I think the Twitter dev community is great. Yeah, I found really a lot of
Exactly.
friends there, a lot of very
Exactly.
friendly people, awesome people. Yeah,
Like if you were a YouTuber, we would not be talking. Like we actually met through Twitter, right?
yeah,
So there's a sense of community on Twitter, dev community, that I don't see elsewhere. Like I had gotten used to developer community when I was in the WordPress community, and then I joined Nodejs Foundation. I kind of felt a bit astray, like what am I doing now, right? Which community am I part of? And then I found that okay, there's a community of developers, no matter what kind of development they do on Twitter, and you can be part of that, Twitter drama, if you will, or whatever. But it has its pros and cons. But it's a good friendly bunch, right? And
yeah,
like if you are watching me, I think Francesco is going to put my Twitter
yeah,
link down in the description somewhere. It's
yeah.
Mr. Ahmad Awais. So
For the listening.
this is like my go-to platform.
Yeah,
Sort of a mini blog for many of us. I've seen excellent tweets from you. So
yeah, yeah. Thank you for being here. Best of luck with your last course, which I think is amazing. I started, but have not finished it yet. But it's for now. It's really very interesting. There are a lot of videos, so there is so much work behind. I can't. I don't think that I can even imagine how much work. So I don't want. I don't know if you can quantify that, but yeah, there is a lot of work behind. So congratulations. I think it's very
thank
good.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks a lot. If you folks want to learn automation, go to nodescli.com. Or if you want to just have a friendly chat with me,
Yeah,
Mr. Ahmad
yeah. As you see, it's a very friendly person. Yeah. Thank you, Alex. Yeah. So see you next time. Yeah. Best of luck for
Thank
everything.
you. Thank you
Yeah.
for having me here, man.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.